Hey everybody, and welcome to the live edition of the Sewing Report. So I'm just going to adjust a light real quick. And I'm Jennifer Moore. I'm the host of the Sewing Report, and every week, every Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be having a live conversation about issues and topics that affect us as the sewing community. So welcome, if this is your first time here, that's what we do. On Thursdays, I also post a video. It could be anything from a tutorial, a product review, a haul, an unboxing, or occasionally a weird, random, funny, hopefully video. So if you like that sort of thing, feel free to subscribe. And today's topic is just that we are talking about the plethora of sewing requests you are bound to get if you start sewing, and how to say no, but in a way that is nice and also helps to educate your friends and family about what we do. So we're just going to jump right into it. So if you're joining me, welcome. And let me know in the comments, the first question is, do you get a lot of sewing requests? And if so, what is the weirdest one you've ever gotten or most out there? Because I've been asked anything from, doing alterations, making dresses, or making skirts. I also get a lot, like if I do upholstery or, home decor type stuff, like making new cushions for someone's couch, that sort of thing. And that's an area that I'll be honest with you, I am not that skilled in. So hold on one second, I'm actually just gonna log in on my computer so that hopefully I can see all your comments. And I figured out sort of a jerry-rigged way of saving all the comments during the live show so that everyone can watch them afterwards. After the show is over, I can actually copy and paste all of them and then put them in the first comment. So I'm going to start doing that and pinning the comments. The format's a little jacked up, but hopefully it will be okay. So anyways, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because we were on a car trip last weekend or the weekend before, and we've been listening to this podcast. James turned me onto this. It's called Making It, and I've linked that episode below that pertains to saying no to people who ask, will you sew something for me? Will you, make something for me? Oh, and the trademark line, I'll pay you, because that makes it all better, right? So I'm going to link that podcast below. And, okay, so Karen, she gets asked a lot if she's going to repair clothes, and she says she hates doing it. So thank you, Karen, for weighing in. We've also got a comment from Green Tree 202. I quilt as well as garments. So I recently got a request to make, a t-shirt quilt. Yeah, we've all gotten t-shirt quilt requests. Hello, Gay from Nebraska. Wow, so Green Tree's friend wanted a t-shirt quilt in a week. Yeah, that's... And anyone who quilts knows that quilts definitely take longer than that, especially since Green Tree works full-time and has 3 small children. So Green Tree, I'm sure you've got oodles of spare time, right? Just to bust out that t-shirt quilt, right? So anyways, yeah, so if you're joining me, that's what we were talking about. We were talking about how to say no to people who ask us inevitably. Because once you tell people you sew, it kind of opens the floodgates up for people to ask you all kinds of crazy stuff. So, yeah, so this is a conversation, so please feel free to weigh in. Let me know what you think. And also, if you have any tips for what you say to say no nicely, let me know, because I would love to hear it. And I'm sure our audience would love to know your tips and sort of strategies for also doing that. So yeah, we are live right now. It is Sunday, and I have no real reason for wearing this shirt, but I found it in the closet, and I thought it was a lot of fun, sort of a party shirt. So I thought I would wear it anyways. I got it about 10 years. Seriously, I got this shirt like 10 years ago from the store Express. Do people remember Express? Does anyone still shop at Express? I don't know. But I did, and I got this shirt. I think it was on sale quite a while ago, and I thought it was fun. But in true ready-to-wear style, the sequins are only on the front. So, they gotta find a way to cut costs somewhere, so. But I did really like this shirt, and I thought I would wear it today. I probably haven't worn it in, 5 years, something like that. All right, we got another comment from Lucy. Being asked to resize a skirt, and she was shocked when she realized I would ask for money in return. Are you serious, Lucy? Where are these people coming from? And also, why why do they assume you will sew for them for free or for like next to nothing? And I know I'm kind of going all around the place here, but when we were listening to this podcast, so let me tell you about this podcast. And even though this podcast, so the podcast is called Making It, and it's hosted by 3 woodworkers. And at first thought you're probably like, Jen, why are you recommending a woodworking podcast? But they talk about so much more than just woodworking. And I think a lot of the topics that this podcast touches on, it really affects us as well, the maker community. And I think a lot of the things they talk about could just as easily be applied to the sewing community. So I wanted to recommend it. It is linked below. And the episode was called like Say No or Just No. And they were talking all about people that asked them to make furniture or make things out of wood. And, you know, and I thought the conversation that they had, the flow they had going on was excellent. So it's definitely worth a listen to if you have not heard of it. The podcast is hosted by 3 woodworkers, David Picciuto, Bob Plaggett, and Jimmy DiResta. And all of them are really big on YouTube. Oh, excuse me. All of them are really big on YouTube. And if you haven't checked out their channels, really great stuff. And I think the maker community in general, I think we need to stick together. And I think there's a lot we can learn from other makers, even if it's not something we do ourselves. So that podcast is excellent. And this one guy, Jimmy DiResta, he has had some shows on like the DIY Network, FX, HGTV. He has a history of being a television host. And I really liked his comments the best. Like, they were talking about people that would ask them, you know, like this guy, Jimmy DiResta, oh, excuse me, he makes furniture for corporations and he does projects for big brands. And he could charge $20,000 for something. And then he was mentioning he'll get some friend that will ask him to help them refurnish something they found at a flea market. And he's like, are you serious? So I want to talk about some of the ways that we can say no to people who ask us to make things for them. But kind of doing it in a way that's, one, not super harsh. We don't want to turn them off or make people think that everyone who sews is, you know, a horrible person. But also in a way that I think one by one, we have an opportunity to share information with these people, help educate them on what sewing is all about and why it's not realistic for us to make a t-shirt quilt for them in a week. So, I mean, I personally, because I run this YouTube channel and do Sewing Report, my normal response, and I have only sewed for money, I think, once, and I way underestimated how much time this project would take me, and I charged far too little. For the project ended up taking me like 4 days, 4 vacation days, and I only charged $75 for 4 days of my time. So that was a huge mistake. But here's the thing, I was mad about it, but I was more mad at myself for not thinking it all the way through. And the person that had hired me, you know, they didn't know anything about it. They didn't know what my time was worth. So really, we need to be the ones that set the prices for people if you are going to sew for money. More recently, I had someone I really did not know at all, ask me to make a quilt. They saw a picture of a quilt top I made, and they said they wanted something similar for a queen or a king size. And in full disclosure, I have never made a king-size quilt or a queen-size quilt, so that project definitely would have been way over my head and would take me forever. So I told them, I said, look, I really don't sew I don't sell things I make. I really only make things for myself or as gifts. And I told this person, I said, if I did charge you for the quilt, I would have to charge probably between $2,000 and $4,000. And the conversation kind of stopped right there. They're like, oh, okay, you know, I get it. They're like, you know, I've been wanting to teach myself to quilt for a long time, but I just haven't gotten around to it. And that's what I love when people say, I don't have time for that. It's like, do you think I have the time for it? Like, why are you assuming that your time is more valuable than mine and that I have all this free time and you don't? So that kind of irks me a little bit when people say that, because I'm not a stay-at-home mom. I do work full-time, and I also run this project. So really, out of everyone I know, I probably have the least amount of spare time out of the people in my circle. I don't do anything. James and I, we don't go out. We don't hang out with friends. We really don't do anything socially. The only things we do are work and work on these video projects. That's really it. We do really not very much else. I only watch TV or do anything like that or listen to podcasts while I'm doing something else so that I'm double upping, so that I'm being more productive. But I won't just sit down and watch a TV show. I have to be doing something else while I'm doing it. And I tell people flat out now, I'm sorry, but I just don't have time. I only make things for these video projects, and they're only personal projects. So I'm not going to hem your pants. And one thing about me too is that I don't have a lot of experience with alterations. So I can honestly tell people, look, this really isn't my area of expertise either. I would hire a professional. And I'll recommend people. I'll find them. I'll say, hey, here's 3 seamstresses in the area. Why don't you call one of them? They actually do so for money. But I want to tell people, and I think this is something we need to help spread the word on. We need to tell people, look, these people are charging for their time. They're not going to charge $5 to hem pants. They might charge $20. So you need to be prepared to pay someone for what they're worth. And I think that's really important for us to get across too. All right, we got a few more comments. Haley, I'm awful at saying no, but recently tried the line, my services are not for sale, sorry, which worked really well. That's a good one. Paula's here, and she says, if you sew well enough and have the time, go ahead and make the person what they want. Make it so expensive so that they'll never ask you again. And I think that's key. When you drop a price, and it's a lot more than they expect, that usually they'll be like, oh, I'll get back to you, and then you just never hear back from them again. So that's one way of saying no. Denise says, hemming pants, no problem. Simple baby quilt, okay. Anything else? I am not that good. Most of my sewing is done vicariously watching YouTube. Oh, Dana says, you and James are my kinds of friends. Dana, sit right back at you. Kirsten is here. She says, it seems a lot of people who haven't been exposed to sewing view those of us who do it as lesser mortals, as if it's an old-fashioned throwback activity. Oh, that drives me up the wall. Green Tree 202, I'm not sure what your real name is, but if you want to tell me your name, feel free to do so. I'm willing to sew my shipmates uniform tags. I'm assuming you're in the Navy of some sort. A name tag, service tag, rank insignia for tea. That is usually only a few dollars, even at a tailor. I think that's very kind of you to do. And for those of you who do so for family and friends, more power to you. If that's something you truly want to do, I think you should do it. But I think the issue is really when you don't want to do something. Like if it's a project, I put out this topic on Instagram and someone commented, I don't like to do boring, in what's in my opinion boring or mundane sewing. And I don't think anyone does. If you love sewing on patches, that's one thing, but if you hate it, I don't think it's out of line for you to not want to do those types of projects. That's totally reasonable, and I don't see anything wrong with you turning people. I don't see anything wrong with turning people down for projects you either don't have time for, don't have an interest in making, or are completely out of your skill set. And I think this goes back to the topic we talked about a couple weeks ago, which is people just think that if you sew, they see the word sewist or seamstress, they think it means all of it. They think you do everything, and that's just not true. But again, if you have not, I would definitely, if you want to get some hear some really good thoughts on it, on sewing for other people and just on turning people down, definitely check out the Making It podcast. I know you're probably thinking, why would I listen to a woodworking podcast? It's so much more than that. I'm promising you, you will like it if you try it. So definitely go check out the Making It podcast. I've linked the episode below. You can listen to it, and you can listen to it while you sew. That episode was all about saying no. And the one guy, Jimmy DeResta, I thought he had some good thoughts when he, and again, woodworking is a pretty expensive hobby. You have to have you can have a lot of expensive machines, and wood is not cheap. So he would get people asking him to make like a table or something, and he'd be like, hey, just so you know, that's $600 in wood just for the materials. And they're like, oh, that's really expensive. And he's like, I know, and I haven't even added in my fee. So he actually will tell people, I would actually just go and buy that from a store. And that's, I think, a very honest, but also very, real, not cutthroat, but I think in some cases you don't want to mince words. And I think that's a very honest, brutally honest approach. And I think once people get those numbers into their head, they're like, oh, I didn't realize it was that expensive. Like if I was going to make a quilt, I didn't realize that was $200 worth of fabric alone. So I think once you start bringing dollar signs into it, I think that really helps bring people back down to earth, in my opinion. I don't know. All right, we got a couple more comments. Melita says, I was just thinking about this subject. I have decided to just say no. I have done a couple quilts to finish people. I have a couple quilts to finish people, and then I'm done. And I think that's the thing. Like, and again, I don't sew for people. And when I'm making things, I also have to think in my head, would this make a good sewing report video as well? And if it's not a project that I'm excited about and, think would make a good video, I don't want to do it either. I get asked all the time, and one thing I think is kind of brings people out of the woodwork is when you bring a gift to someone, like if it's at like a bridal shower or at a baby shower, and you make something and bring it, that's when all of a sudden people are like, oh my gosh, I want one too. But again, you giving something as a gift is a lot different than making something for someone for money. And the other time, and someone brought this up on Instagram, was when you post pictures of stuff you make on Facebook. So I was thinking about this, and I have stopped posting the things I make on my personal Facebook page just because then you get those types of comments and questions all over again, and then you end up sounding like a broken record because you're trying to explain to people everything about sewing, and that can get real old real fast. So I think one way to cut down on people asking you to do stuff is not to post all those pictures. I know it's hard sometimes because some of the stuff you make is really cute and you want to share it, but just know that every time you post a picture of a girl's dress you post on Facebook, you're going to get a bunch of moms asking you to make one for their kid. I think the other thing that Jimmy DiResta was saying in this Making It podcast was he'll just tell people, maybe if I have time for it, and then he just never ends up getting around to it, so they end up kind of going away. Or someone will be like, well, like they'll ask him to do something, and then the person will be like, well, I'm tired of waiting around on you, so I'm just going to go hire it out myself. And they'll be like, yeah, you should do that because I don't have time, and if you want this done in a timely manner, you should hire someone who actually sells those services. And I think that's another good point. The other thing I was thinking about too is that if you are, Champagne Twist says, a wise person once said, no is a sentence, and that is completely 100% accurate. The other thing I think we need to encourage people to do is to try to make it themselves. Marie says, I don't sew for anyone only because I only want to sew what I want to make, and that's how I feel as well. I like picking out the fabrics for my projects, I like picking out the patterns, and when you take that away from me, the fun is kind of zapped out of it. If I'm working with fabric I don't like, and I'm doing a pattern I don't want to do, or a project I am not interested in, it's not fun, and then it becomes a chore and it becomes work. But one thing I was thinking too is I think we need to encourage people to start sewing. So open up the conversation and say, hey, this is actually a pretty simple project. If you come over to my house, I'll show you how to make it, and then you could make your own. And tell them how much fun sewing is, because that's why we got started in the first place. I have tried that a couple times, and I will say I have not had much success with that. But at the same time, that also was my way of saying no. So I've had people ask me, like, if I wear things to work that I make, people will ask, hey, will you make me one too? And I've now started saying, hey, instead of me making you one, if you come to my house, I'll show you how to make it and walk you through the process, just because I want people to know what goes into it. And I don't know if they were offended, but the person never ends up getting back to you. So that is, again, a way of saying no. And if I do have a taker on it, I would gladly take my time and show the person how to make something. But that's the thing. I think if I do make something for someone that requests it, I want them to know how much time I spent. I want them to know how long it takes to cut out a pattern, trace a pattern, do the fit alterations, or, you know, even alter something just for their size. Because even though I sew garments for myself, sewing garments for someone else is a whole different ballgame, because they're not the same size. You don't know what pattern alterations to make for them. You do have to do fittings, and it's like starting over again. So just because you can make a skirt for yourself doesn't mean it's super easy for you to make a skirt for someone else. Even if I'm doing a new pattern for the first time, it takes me a lot longer to do, because I'm carefully going over each step. I'm trying to figure out what the best methods are for finishing. And it just ends up taking like probably 2 to 3 times as long for me to do something for the first time than for me to do something in subsequent times. So I think that's something that people just don't understand. And I'm not blaming these people. I think that the issue is that they just don't understand what goes into sewing. So I think that's one thing that we need to keep in mind as well, is that these people they don't know what we know. All right, we got a couple more comments. Haley, a fellow sewist, recently held a sewing party in her house where she invited people over to sew their own skirts so they would know how expensive the materials were and how much time and effort it is. Haley, that's a great idea, and I have to ask, did they get a lot of people over? Did they get a lot of people who came over that were interested in sewing? Champagne Twist, how come some designers are questioned about their cost, but someone who sews for a living, for fun or a living are? Yeah, and I would agree, like, you know, people will pay $20,000 for, you know, some Monique Lhuillier dress, but, you know, if you're sewing a custom dress, you know, all of a sudden they offer you $50. Kirsten says, once people understand that sewing is architecture inside out and backwards, they develop a respect for it pretty fast. Teaching them a little works, and it feels really good when it happens. Hello Act says, do you have a tutorial for stretch fabric? Hello Act, I do not yet. But I'll keep that in mind for future videos. And anyone watching, if you have a good tutorial for stretch fabric, feel free to link to it so Hello Act can find what they're looking for. Champagne Twist says, for instance, some wouldn't bat an eyelid over the cost of a Chanel skirt, but if someone makes it, it's an issue. And that's totally true. It's like because you're not some big name designer that your time is worth less. Paula says, a fun way of setting the unknowing straight about sewing would be to turn them onto haute couture. I think that's a good point, and that's what I tell people too, is that you sewing things is making your own personal couture, your own custom couture, and that is really expensive. And that's why I try to tell people a little about garment sewing, just how long it takes me, and you know, just how long, and part of it's not even the actual sewing, it's just getting that fit right and altering the pattern and trying to figure out what best fit, what alterations to make. It's a very complicated thing to do a custom fit for even yourself. I bought that Craftsy class on drafting your own bodice sloper, and oh my gosh, like my brain is just like, there are concepts in there that I can't even get my head around yet, and I've been watching those videos over and over again trying to get it. So I think that's something that people just don't understand. They think it's a super easy thing. And you know, and I was even in a Facebook group recently, and someone asked, like, I was talking to some other YouTubers, and someone was like, hey, would you make me an outfit for like a Coachella type outfit? You know, it can be like a collaboration. And I was like, hey, unfortunately it takes me, like, that sort of project would be out of my comprehension right now, and it's not easy to make things. But people just think it's super easy and quick for you to make things, and that's, as you and I know, that is not at all the case. So yes, if you have any good ways of saying no to sewing requests, that's what we're talking about this hour, and let me know what you think, and also what are your strategies and tips for saying no to people who ask you to sew for them. And I think another reason why I don't sew is I think once money is introduced, that's when the person gets kind of nitpicky, like, and I don't want to, like, once you start paying for them, then it becomes really stressful, because you're like, oh, if the stitching isn't perfectly straight, what if they want to return it, or what if they don't want to pay me for it? You know, so that's another thing to think about, is that once you introduce money into the equation, the person could get a lot more demanding about what you're doing, how it looks, whereas if it's a gift or you're doing it for free, they really can't complain about it because they're getting it for free. But once you introduce those dollars into it, that especially if you're charging a high amount of money, then people can start to get really picky about the details. And I've read some horror stories in Facebook groups about people seamstresses who've had some nightmare customers. I don't want to deal with that sort of thing. That's why I just make videos about what I'm doing for you guys to watch, but I am not going to sew things and sell them. I've got a comment from Brenda. Maybe instead of posting pictures or finishes, we should post pictures of all our seam ripping and redos. I think that's a good idea. So when you're posting things on social media, they're seeing more of the process and not just that finished item, because they have no idea what it took for you to get to that point. And in fact, I'm actually thinking about doing some more videos for Sewing Report. It's hard to produce videos where you're showing the entire process, but I'm actually going to be doing some of those just so people can know what all goes into making a dress or making a skirt. I think it'll be valuable to other seamstresses. Hopefully maybe they can pick up some tips, but also for people who don't sew, just to say, wow, that took her 9 hours to do. And I think we just need to make sure we are really communicating the time, effort, skill, and attention to detail that all of our sewing projects make to people. This is an ongoing war. It's not just a battle. The war to get people to recognize what we do. All right, we got Zena here. People see my machines and they assume I'm an expert at sewing. I'm still learning how myself. Very frustrating. And I hear you there. And I think someone was suggesting in a future video we talk about how to sell things and get the price you're worth. And I think that's a good topic to talk about. And I've actually got some really good real life examples of people I know who are able to sell handmade goods at a very lucrative price. I think it's challenging, but I don't think it's impossible. I think a lot of it though is your marketing and just your branding, just so that you know you are selling luxury items. You're not selling bargain basement stuff. And I think that's important to express to people. Champagne Twist says, one thing I've noticed recently that many sewing YouTube channels are becoming more and more like catwalk runway shows. And I've noticed this myself, and I agree with that, Champagne Twist, that people just show their makes at the end, or they show a few outfits they made. I do think it's important, though, to have some B-roll or footage of yourself actually making the item. Because it's becoming less fun and more commercially oriented. Yeah, and I would agree, and I really like doing, I personally like doing videos where not only am I showing the finished product, but I'm also showing what it took me to get me there, talk about my frustrations with certain patterns, if I had issues, how I overcame those problems, and having it more offer valuable information than just showing Instagram ready pictures and videos. I do like to get some B-roll of myself in my makes, but I also think you need to show yourself sewing it, show different steps, and also offer tips for other people trying to make the same garment. All right, if a person requests you to make clothes, how do you set a price? Hello, Act, that is a good question. I think you need to make sure you are charging a fair amount for your time for all the materials, and also so you need to have some sort of profit built into there, just so that it's worth your time. We got Michelle. I have someone who wants to do a trade. I am scared. They will do crochet items for one skirt. And Michelle, I think that's up to you. You need to figure out what can they make you that's as valuable as to what you're giving them. Actually, the Making It podcast, which I've linked below, talked about that as well in one episode. I swear, I'm getting addicted to this podcast, but it is so good. And it seems like a lot of the topics they talk about really can resonate with the sewing community as well. And I'm like, yes, yes, yes. But they talk about bartering on the podcast, and that if you, maybe there's something you could do okay or do a mediocre job with, but it would be better if you paid someone who actually had the talent for. If I was, for instance, myself, I've been actually making all of my own graphics for Sewing Report. But I've actually been thinking maybe I should actually hire a professional to make something better, or to make better, to really, so that when you watch these videos, and that, if people are coming to the channel for the first time, they get to see it in its best form and not just in okay form. I've been thinking about that. We're actually thinking about trying to get better graphics for James's channel, more approved, and try to up our game with just the photography and the graphics and the music and the production level. Just because I think that's really important to make something the best you can and to always be taking it up to the next level. I hope my videos have gotten better over time, and I'm trying to invest more time and resources into making them better for you. So I think that's something that's one of my focuses for this year, next year. All right, we got Champagne Twist. Michelle, I think the fact that you're scared means that you really should think about if this is right for you. And I would agree with that. If it's something that you don't think is a very fair trade, Michelle, don't do it, girl. Don't do it. I've had some situations where I'm kind of like, eh. And if you are thinking about that in your gut, then maybe that's not something that you should do. But yeah, so we were talking about how to say no to people. And again, that's one instance where, Michelle, you might want to say no, or say, especially if it's not something you want or need. Like if you don't need crocheted items, or if you don't really want them, then why do it? I don't know. So Dana says, I bartered 2 pillows for a cross stitch. I got the deal that time. Hey, that sounds pretty good for me. Yeah, pillows are pretty simple to do. And that's the thing. If someone does want you to make something and might have a skill you want, like maybe someone who's a graphic designer wants you to sew them something, instead of paying you, maybe they can give you some free graphic design work. Or a photographer wants you to maybe sew a dress for a photo shoot or something for a photo shoot. Maybe they can give you some free professional photos in return for your blog. I think that's something that we should look at more seriously, and that's a way that everyone can get something that they are looking for in that situation. Melita, I made a queen-size quilt for a bench and entry door cubbies. It was a great trade. Hey, that sounds actually pretty good. Yeah, queen-size quilt, and then you get some free furniture. That actually sounds like a pretty fair trade. And I think bartering is a way that again, everyone can be happy in the end and get what you're looking for. But I think it's when you feel like you're getting the short end of a deal, or if you're trying to get, or if you're not offering someone, and I think that goes around. If someone has skills, like if they're a graphic designer or a photographer, you also need to offer them something that's valuable in return, or pay them for their work, pay them their actual rate, and not try to nickel and dime them and get a discount. Because I do think you get what you pay for. I think that's very true. But I think saying no to people can be really hard. I also, so yeah, when I say no to someone, I am now saying, look, I'm really sorry. I don't have time to sew things for other people. Generally, I only sew things for myself, or gifts, or for the channel. And then sometimes in the Making It podcast, the one guy was like, well, people will say, well, hey, you could just make a video out of it. But at the same time, it has to be the right project for you. So if someone was suggesting a video to me for Sewing Report, and it was an item that I really didn't think would bring value to my viewers, and it was not a project I was excited about, I wouldn't do it. Even if I could get a video out of it, I really do want the videos I make to have value for the people watching. And if it doesn't have value to the people watching, then why make it at all? That's all I'm saying. Oh, and I do want to let you know also, yes, the prom mug is back. And I am trying to branch out my seamstress skills. I'm trying to make my first ever collared shirt with buttons. We'll see how that goes. I would like to make a video out of it, but we do have a bit of a challenge. Since both James and I are making videos now, it's a little bit tough because if I want to use the cameras, sometimes he's using the cameras. So we really have to manage our time well and try to schedule things out and plan in advance. So that, like, I might be editing while he's shooting, or vice versa, so that not one of us need the cameras at the same time, or the lights. Like right now, I'm using one of our lights. So it can be a little bit of a struggle to manage all this when you have 2 people in the household that are making YouTube videos. But we're doing our best, but I really am cognizant of the fact that I really want to make more videos that show the making process and have more B-roll of me and tips of different aspects of the pattern so that I can share that with you. I have linked a couple things. I found some really fun, and every week I'm going to try to do this, I found some really interesting sewing articles, so I've linked those in there. And I also want to share with you, if you really enjoy this channel and you like what I'm doing here and you enjoy these live shows and you want to help support Sewing Report, but again, I'm not starting a Patreon at this point or anything like that. I know a lot of people have asked, you know, I've had some people suggesting I start a Patreon or something like that, but it does seem like everyone has one now. So I'm not going to be doing that. But if you would like to support this mission, and the mission behind Sewing Report is to share, I really want to share my love of sewing with the world and encourage more people to sew. That's really the whole goal. If you'd like to help support the channel without it costing you anything extra, I have linked, and I link products in all of the videos, like if I use like a certain tracing paper or if I use a certain tool, I link it, and I'm part of the Amazon affiliate program, and all that means is that if you do click on the link and you buy that or any other thing in Amazon within a certain amount of time, I get a little percentage of the sales. It's called commission. That's one way for me to help generate some sort of revenue through this channel, and really I'm investing it back to the channel. I want to invest in a better lighting kit. I would like to invest in more equipment, better audio, just to make these videos better. So if you would like to see that happen and you enjoy these videos, you like what I'm doing, definitely support, you know. The way you can do that is by clicking on one of those Amazon links and then buying that product or buying another product. It doesn't matter actually what you buy on Amazon as long as you got to Amazon through one of my links. I also found this website. There's this website called kit.com, and it helps you share some of your favorite things. So I was on there and playing around with it, and it has a cool setup. So if I'm doing a project, like next week I'm doing a video about hand embroidery, I made a little kit. So if you click down in the description box, if you click on there's a section down there called Shop Sewing Report's Favorite Sewing and Quilting Products. I've linked to the kit, and I have a profile in kit, and you can see all of my favorite beginner sewing supplies, dressmaking supplies, sewing machines, sewing and quilting books, best irons, hand embroidery, starter kit, quilting supplies, even my YouTube filming gear. If you'd like to check out some of what I love, again, I'm only recommending products that I've used or that I really like, check it out there. And if you click on those links, it will take you to my Amazon affiliate account. So if you want to support the channel in a small way, that is how you can do that. And again, I'm sorry to take up the time with this commercial, but you know, over time, I've been doing this for about 1.5 years, and you guys have been great, and I'm really glad to see this audience and community growing. But again, I would like to start investing in some better equipment and some more, I also need to buy supplies for these projects, and by helping support me through this Amazon program, you can help do that just so that I can make more videos. I really do love making videos and also sewing, and that's why I combine the two. But if you check out my kit profile, I'm going to constantly be creating new kits. Like for next week's video, you can see everything I am using for this hand embroidery video, so you can see everything I used. And I'm going to be making new kits, so if I make a certain project, like say I make a dress, I'm going to create a kit just for the dress, say, hey, this is the pattern I used, this is the fabric, this is the thread, and if I use any notions, I'll be linking them in there and creating little kits for all of the projects that I'm doing. I think it's a really cool website, and it has a very clean interface. If you're a blogger, I would also link into it as well, because you can embed your kit into a blog post. So that's what I'm going to be doing, is I will be embedding like my hand embroidery starter kit into the, I'm going to be embedding it into that blog post so that you can all see all the products that I'm using in a very clean way. I really like this website, and I highly recommend it if you are looking for a way to showcase some of your sewing items. I think that is a good way to do that. And also, it's a good way a small way for you if you would like to help support Sewing Report. That is how you can do so. I really appreciate everyone watching and everyone tuning in every week to the show. It means a lot to me, and I've really enjoyed getting to know everybody. So that is one way. If you would like to support Sewing Report, that is how you can do that. Also, I have a link on my Facebook page as well. So if you go to the Sewing Report Facebook page, I linked the kit, my profiling kit as well. So anyways, sorry for the PSA, but that's just something, you know, I know it's like self-promo time, but at the same time, you know, I realize if I want to keep Sewing Report going long-term, that's something that I'm probably going to have to do more and more just to be able to create these videos. So anyways, that's all for me. If anyone else has any comments on how to say no to people who ask you to sew, feel free to leave it in the comments. Also, if you missed the live show, don't worry, you can still watch the replay all the time. That's what I love about YouTube, is that you can, you know, even though we're doing this live stream, someone who missed it can watch it whenever they want, and this video stays up forever. Champagne Twist, I have thought about doing sew-alongs, and in fact, that is something that's really something that's on the agenda. So Marie says, glad you did that. I've been meaning to ask you about your iron. And yes, so if you want to see all the products I use, check out the link to my kit under Shop Sewing Report's favorite sewing and quilting products, and you can see everything that I like to use. Okay, so we got a couple comments. Yeah, so Champagne Twist, I am going to be doing hopefully some sew-along videos. The thing about the sew-along videos is that they do take a lot of time and a lot of production to produce, and I want them to be good. Like, I don't want them to just be like okay videos. I am working on some sewing machine videos just on using the serger and using the Janome cover stitch machine, and those are all linked below as well. But I really appreciate everyone tuning into the show and watching every week, and just for all the support. And I think we're building a really great Sewing Report squad here. And again, yes, if you have comments, this week is all about saying no to sewing requests. Next week, I'm not sure what the topic's going to be. I was thinking about talking about selling your items, but it also feels a little hypocritical of me because I don't actually sell items. But if you've been following me in the blog world for a while, I had another blog called More Approved that's now more James's domain. And I wrote an article a few years ago about quilt pricing and why quilts are so expensive. And I talked to some people. I interviewed a few folks who were in the quilting industry on why they don't sell quilts, why or why not, and also, you know, more about like about the business dynamics about quilt pricing. It was fascinating for me to write, and a lot of you read it. And that's actually, I put that on the Sewing Report blog too. So if you haven't read that, I do want to talk more about the business angle. And also I was actually thinking about, and I don't know if this would be more of a social experiment. I was thinking about trying to set up an Etsy shop just to see what happens, and then doing videos, reporting back on like what happened with the Etsy shop. Like, not like a serious Etsy shop, but like I would try to set up a shop just to go through the experience myself, and or trying to sell things and just seeing what happens. Like, are people willing to pay real prices? You know, do I get any sales? Because, you know, everyone that hears you sew, the first question they often ask is, do you have an Etsy shop? Do you have an Etsy shop? And you try to explain people how difficult Etsy really is, and like they don't believe you, or they think it's so easy. So I think maybe I was thinking about making some videos on like the reality of Etsy, like what happens if you, like, when people are like, oh, you should try to set up an Etsy shop, then I can say, well, I tried it and it did not work. So I was thinking about doing something like that, maybe as an experiment that I could blog about and do videos about to share what happened to me when I tried to set up an Etsy shop. Because everyone always asks if you have an Etsy shop, and I think there's good reasons for not doing it just as much as doing it. All right, we got a couple more comments here. Champagne Twist, thank you for creating these videos. I look forward to them. Allison, I sew all kinds of cute pillows, but tomorrow I will bring some design and hope it catches eye. Wish me luck. Well, good luck to you, Allison. Hopefully you sell your pillows. Brenda, that's a great idea. Brenda, were you talking about the Etsy experiment? And maybe I could call it like Etsy experimentation or something and just try to set up a shop. Also, although I don't know if I want to do that, because that might also mean I would have to actually get like a business license or something. And I don't really know if I really want to do that. So we will see. And I apologize. I feel like this light is like really bright. So yeah, going like undercover in the Etsy world to try to set up a shop, because people are always like, oh, you should set up an Etsy shop and you could totally, like, people are always saying you could totally sell those, when if you actually tried to sell them, would you actually sell any, or would you get no sales? Like, I'm just curious to know, like, if I actually did set up an Etsy shop, would I actually sell anything, or would it just go nowhere? So then I could say, like, hey, I tried to set up an Etsy shop and it was not successful. Hello, Mary. All right, we got Brenda here. We got Kelly. Great info and comments today. Thank you very much, Kelly. And again, thank you everybody for joining me. But yeah, I think one thing I do have one personal story. So out of some of the scrap knit fabric I have, I made some baby outfits. I made like some little baby pants. I posted them on Instagram before, and I made little baby hats, free patterns and everything. And has anyone met an Etsy millionaire? Champagne Twist, I believe the company Grace and Lace started out on Etsy, although Grace and Lace was also on Shark Tank too. So they had a bit of the Shark Tank effect. But anyways, a while back I had made some baby outfits. I made like the baby pants and a baby hat, and I was using scrap fabric. So like I had bought a bunch of knit fabric. So I would make them out of fabric when I didn't have enough to make like an adult size garment. And I tried to sell a couple of them on Facebook. Nobody bit. So I posted them, and I think I put the price of like $30, or it was like $30 or $35 for a handmade baby knit set, baby pants and a baby hat. Nobody even approached me about it. Like, I didn't even get anyone saying, hey, I might be interested. Like, I got zero sales. So I ended up giving those items away as gifts, and that was kind of my purpose for making them anyways. But I figured, hey, maybe I'll try to sell these, and at least then it would recoup my cost of fabric. But nobody, I got, out of my like 500 Facebook friends, I got zero interest. So, you know, I tried to sell stuff, and you know what the funny thing is that I had tried to sell something of fabric I chose and at a price I picked, instead of someone saying like, hey, will you make me a skirt? So I don't know, like, I don't know, but I am curious to try to set up an Etsy shop just to see if anyone actually buys anything. And then and maybe I would do a series of videos like, here's what happened to me, this was a disaster, or like showing people like what all happened, because I feel like if I did set up an Etsy shop, I really don't feel like it would be successful, because the prices, I would charge high prices, and a lot of these people on Etsy are really charging like I feel like unrealistically cheap prices. Like, I'll see a quilt for $75 and I'm like, are they like on crack or something? Like, what, are they out of their mind? Like, because I would never sell a quilt for 75 bucks. I mean, I do get people saying my sewing skills aren't that great, so for now I'm charging a low price because it's not a perfect item. In that case, I would not sell anything at all. Like, if I didn't think the item was worthy of sale, I just wouldn't sell it. Like, I have a lot of bags I made in the closet of shame in my craft room that I would give away. I wouldn't sell them. Like, I would maybe, like, if someone wanted to pay the shipping and get the bags, I would just ship it to them and just have them pay for shipping. But the bags I've made in my early stages are not of a quality that I would feel comfortable selling to people. I'm just being honest here. All right, we got Penguin. Oh, we got a few more. All right, so Sequoia says, every time I try to make an Etsy or store envy shop, it always fails and I always give up. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I have decent prices, so it's not outrageous. Penguin and Pear, I used to sell handmade jewelry. I was much more successful selling on Facebook than I was on Etsy. Linda, I always miscalculate shipping when selling on Etsy. Yeah, and I feel like I would do that too. So yeah, I want to know, so to everyone who does sell things, I think we'll talk about this next week, selling on things. I think we should talk about what's been, like, if you do sell things, what's been the best method for you? Do you have tips for people? And, you know, because I do think maybe Facebook would be good, like a Facebook page. And the Facebook page would be free. Like, if you have a PayPal account, you could just do everything through PayPal and not have to worry about listing fees or anything. So I was even thinking this as well. If I was going to sell stuff, I would actually sell things probably on Instagram directly or on Facebook and just say, hey, I'll invoice you through your PayPal email address and then just once they paid, you send them whatever it is. So I might experiment with that. So if you see me start to sell stuff, don't be like, what the hell is she doing? Just know that it's probably going to be for some sort of video. And I also on this channel, just a quick announcement, I would like to start doing some more giveaways and more stuff like that. Maybe some swag bags. By helping to support the Sewing Report channel through like my affiliate links, I might be able to do some more giveaways. Also, like if I start getting some free stuff from companies, I do want to give that stuff away. So that's sort of what I'm thinking about for the future plans for Sewing Report. Let me know what you think about all this, because I've been doing a lot of thinking about what I want this channel to be, what I want this platform to be, and how I can best serve the sewing community to add value to everyone here. So if you have any suggestions for me that might fit my skill set, let me know. And all right, we got a couple comments. Yeah, Zoe, dealing with customers on any platform can be a challenge. That's one of the reasons why I'm not that interested in selling things. Haley, I have seen a few things being sold as handmade, but were obviously imported from China. Yeah, and I do think that Etsy could probably do a better job at policing that sort of thing. I know it's difficult, but if Etsy's supposed to be like a handmade retailer, and if you're selling mass-produced stuff from China, where is the handmade in that? Anyways, guys, I'm gonna check out right now because I gotta help James with some stuff for his channel. But tune in next week. I think the topic definitely needs to be selling. All right, next week, I'm just saying it now, the topic is selling things. So join me next week at 3 p.m. and we will be back here again. I will see you guys all next week. Bye.